I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 101. That feels weird to say. This one is with Isiah Williams, who goes by StarBeing online. As I won't spoil it for you, but at the end he says something very funny about his online moniker versus his name. But we kind of talk about his journey into art. It's a great talk. If you'd like to learn more about him, give him a follow on Instagram at StarBeing, StarBeing. Make sure to tell him Ramblin' Man sent you. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Though they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at Feral Giant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode. Are you in Cleveland? You are
Yes,
based
I am.
Are you
Based in
originally from Cleveland?
Yeah, I'm from Cleveland. I was born and raised in Cleveland. I lived in, different cities around the greater Cleveland area,
Okay.
like Cleveland Heights, Beechwood, Lakewood. I currently live in Campus District, which is like downtown Cleveland.
Okay.
So yeah,
I had this talk with somebody I interviewed yesterday. I was like, I started coming to Cleveland a little bit over 10 years ago for a conference called Weapons of Mass Creation Festival.
I've heard of that.
And when I came, downtown was dead. There was nothing happening.
Yeah.
And the person I talked to last night lives downtown too. I was like, what the? I could barely get food on a Friday night back then. And now all of a sudden it's hopping.
Yeah. When was this?
It's a 2010, 2009,
Okay.
2010.
No, that makes sense because Cleveland was just kind of been like kind of a city, the city that's kind of, I guess we'll say, on the upswing. After I would say 2012, but before then it was like a lot of abandoned buildings in the warehouse district, and Midtown was not too much going on. A lot of people didn't even know about Midtown. The downtown area was mainly just for like people going to work, and I guess the flats of Cleveland was kind of going through a crime spree. So around that time, I think a lot of it was Cleveland wasn't really a hot destination, and a lot of people called it Mistake on the Lake. I don't know if that's still floating around.
I haven't heard that one. Mistake on
Yeah.
the Lake. Oh God.
But ever since Cleveland has kind of been, trying to, band-aid the wounds and just, put itself back together. And I think it's definitely a lot better of a place than it was in 2010, for sure.
Well, and it's wild because I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, and Knoxville, Tennessee has been the next big thing for like 40 years. And I'm always like, I'm good. We're good. We don't need to be the next big thing. We don't.
Yeah.
20
that brings
years
tourism and everything else.
It brings off. And it's funny, like 20 years ago, it's like Knoxville's the next Austin. I was like, no, I'm good.
No,
Y'all stay there. Don't bring all y'all. I don't need all those people.
what's happening in Texas. It's just it's better to be kind of like a middle of the road
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
So it keeps the craziness and madness away.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And for weapons, I came up every year for, I think, 8 years. So I got to see some of that development to where I think the last time I was up, I was at some taco Mexican place right off. Is it the 4th Street Promenade? Am I saying that right? It was right around the corner from that. I was like, man, this is way different than when I came when I started coming up here. It's like, yeah, it was brutal. It was the first night I was up there. It was a Friday night. I went to a restaurant. It was 6 o'clock, and they're like, "Oh, we're closing." I was like, "What?" I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, and I can get food. Right. What are you talking about? Like, this when it starts. And they're like, well, it's tough. And I was walking, and the only other person on the road was a homeless dude. Like 3 blocks later, it's like, excuse me. I got to him before he got to me. I was like, excuse me, where can I get food? He's like, well, there's a bar like 1 block up and 1 block over. I was like, cool, here's $5. Thank you. You earned your keep. I'm going to go. Nice. I'm going to go to a bar and eat shitty bar food because that's apparently the only place I could go. But yeah, so originally from Cleveland, moving around. So growing up, like, what did your folks do? Were they artists too, or?
When my parents were together, my dad he worked with IBM. It's like a tech company, and he was he had worked with different companies like fixing computers and putting computers together back when everyone had the big monitors with the keyboards and the top stuff like that. So he was really big on working on computers, and he also was trying to get his Cleveland paparazzi media thing going. Okay. So it was like a thing he was trying to get. He was trying to like get. It wasn't like really just paparazzi. It was like kind of like trying to be an event promoter. He was really trying to push for that and promote different events and get people, out and make Cleveland a little bit more fun for artists to come to and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
So he was really into that. Unfortunately, he ran into some issues with, the weather of Cleveland, and so then that really affected, his pockets when it came to that. And then on top of that, just trying to get things off the ground and get the right donors for these events, because they're tens and even hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes to pay everybody.
Yeah.
And it just one of his events just kind of hit the ground because it was really due to the weather. Like out of nowhere, it was like a whiteout snowstorm on the day that was like it was the make or break event, and he put like everything he had into it. And I think after that event, and the snowstorm happened, and the turnout was horrible, and him and all his investors losing a bunch of money. Man. Just took a turn for him, and he he just slowly decided to move away after my parents divorced and stuff like that, and due to other things. But that was the main thing for him. And my mom, she was always she worked with. There was a Wild Oats place, I think something like that, Wild Oats. And then she worked with now she works with Trader Joe's, and she's been working with Trader Joe's for many years now.
Man,
manager status and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
But they're both married now and stuff like that.
The Trader Joe's is such a weird thing. Like we got one here finally, like 6. I find it fascinating how limited they are. About like they really have to be invested to put it in the area, and how they are. And I've got a friend that she does all the signage art. That's her job there. I was like, that's crazy. Like it's sounds awesome. It sounds great. Like the way they treat their employees and everything.
Yeah.
And
it's great. Yeah, it's really like a community-based, environment where, everyone gets paid well, everyone gets benefits.
Yeah.
All healthcare benefits that you would need. I think that's why most of their staff is like, older folks who maybe have retired or who just want to, have that stability and make money. But she's really happy where she's been working for many years, has all the respect.
Yeah.
And she's been able to buy she bought a home before the home she bought now. So she's been able to like kind of climb up the social ladder
That's
through
awesome.
work and remarrying. So
That's great.
I'm happy for her because it's cool to see that, you know, even after everything that, you know, family go through,
Yeah.
they're like traps and, you know, get back on track.
And she found out she loves Hawaiian shirts for some reason. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
they all do.
So when you were young, were you like always into art as a kid? Were you always doodling?
Yeah, I was always doodling. My family, more so the eccentric type. We always, you know, talked about different cultures and different things and tried to like, you know, just get a deeper understanding and meaning on about spirituality and the way the world works and things like that. So I think that kind of like just kind of gave me a different perspective on how I wanted to live my life and opened the door for me to be more creative. And I started to, you know, draw. I think I started drawing since the age of like 7 or 8 is when I really started to like draw different cartoon characters and then started to create my own characters. And I never was a painter in the beginning.
Okay.
Like I was a sketcher, and you know, I like to use a lot of. Sometimes if I wanted to use color, I would use like markers or crayons. But I was always afraid of paint because it just looked so, you know, hard and intimidating
and permanent. It felt like
but it's one of the least permanent things.
Yeah.
When you like start to learn how it works and the different techniques and, you know, different ways to apply it. But yeah, so I was afraid of paint for a long, long time, but I always was good in art class with like drawing and you know, just using different tools like sculpting and sketching and etching and all that kind of stuff. So eventually, you know, I started to mess around with spray paint.
Okay.
And I started like really like how the colors laid. And I wasn't like a graffiti artist ever or anything like that. I never hit the streets, but I would like spray paint like tables and canvases and things like that, like smaller end tables and from, you know, a young age. And I started to really like how like you can use stenciling and things like that. And you can use like different materials like crumpled newspaper to get different textures, you know, work with that as the paint is drying and things like. So it was just really cool to see that like how you can like manipulate different textures and colors to get, you know, a different result. And that's kind of what introduced me to paint. And then I eventually started using a paint.
Well, it's wild to me. So I've been in, I've been taking art classes since like 7th grade. So for a long time, but I was always one of those that I was surrounded by people way more talented than me. So I always had, what's it called? Where I never had faith in myself as an artist. I can draw on the computer really well, but it seems like spray paint, that would be the hardest one. To me, that just seems terrifying to me.
Yeah.
Getting the control and everything.
Yeah.
But back then, were you into like comic books or cartoons, or did you go to museums or anything? Like what was there other things that fueled kind of the art other than the self work?
Yeah, I was big on you know, I love comic books, especially the ones that like were more involved with like martial arts and like that. Because my dad was big on anime and kung fu movies like Bruce Lee, Jet Li, you know, Jackie Chan, all those guys. And so, you know, as a kid, it just looked so cool. And I was already a little bit more on the spiritual side. So like being in tune with your chi and your chakras and unlocking different, you know, martial art moves and stuff like that was like really intriguing to me. So I think like, you know, just stuff like that kind of like really, you know, open up my mind to, you know, the spiritual realm and creativity and the way the things that I was interested in painting, stuff like that. So I definitely think, you know, definitely like comic books, movies.
I'm trying to think, like, was Samurai Jack, did that come out right? Yeah. Because that kind of melded 50 different things into one thing. It seemed like.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Samurai Jack and Dragon Ball Z, stuff like that. Like all the like Inuyasha show and all those like late night, more not more late night, but like after school
Right.
cartoons on like what's called non shows that came on. So it's like Dragon Ball Z, like One Piece. And I had a little sister, so I could get away with like Powerpuff Girls and stuff like that. Dexter's Laboratory.
Well, so I am much older, and I was laughing because I watched Rugrats and Doug, and I realized I was way too old to be watching Rugrats, but I just liked it for whatever reason. It just hit me the right way. I was like, I'm too old to be watching this, but this is awesome.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Ren and Stimpy and all that stuff. It was like, this is great, but I'm too old for this. Like, I'm going playing football.
I can still watch cartoons if they're like funny or they have a little bit like humor for adults. Because I feel like a lot of cartoons, they make them for kids, but they know that parents will be watching them too, or maybe an older sibling. So they like sneak in some adult humor that a kid would nice.
So my little sister is 11 and a half years younger than me. And I have taken her to every Pixar film in the theater, except for one pre-pandemic. Once pandemic hit, we're out. Mm-hmm. Like they started releasing them digitally, and it was the same thing. It's like I would be 25 taking a 13-year-old and I would get some of the jokes that she wouldn't get because you're right. They were made they were little nuggets, little Easter eggs for grown-ups.
Yeah. Like if you go back and watch like SpongeBob or, one of those TV shows like Courage the Cowardly Dog, you're like, how is this for kids? Like, it just seems so like inappropriate. But when you're a kid, you don't notice a lot of those things. An adult.
Yeah, we were talking about Ren and Stimpy and how there was a horse on it that had a nice butt. And they focused on that a lot. And it was like, as an adult, you're like, wait, what? What happened? What are we doing here?
I don't think I was allowed to watch that one. That one was borderline not for kids.
Well, I told her, I was like, the point where I was done was, I think it was Ren farted and made it into a balloon, and I think named it. And I watched it, and I was like, all right, I'm out. I can't do this. What are we doing?
That was the weirdest cartoon ever.
Yeah.
I don't know how with putting it on the kids network.
Although being older, I was in middle school, I think, when Beavis and Butthead came out. And I've gone down the rabbit hole of watching. You can find YouTube like where it just shows all their videos. And it's like, man, I can't believe they got away with any of this.
Yeah.
I was like, this is insane. But then you watch like Rick and Morty now, and it's even crazier. Even crazier.
Yeah. I don't even want to know what the kids are watching these days.
So
I do think that's like Rick and Morty is not intended for children. Yeah, like I don't think it would be on like Nickelodeon or something.
No, but I also have watched 3 episodes and realized I am not stoned enough to enjoy this show. I'm not on enough acid to get why.
You have to indulge in a little bit of psychedelics for sure.
To go backwards a little bit. So this may have been a little bit before your time, but have you watched Batman the Animated Series?
I feel like there was a lot of different Batman.
Yeah, there was Batman Beyond, but Batman the Animated Series came out in like 91 or so, and it's amazing because like the art they actually drew on black paper and did like white ink or red ink to get it to make it darker. You ought to look that up. Like it's astounding. And it's another one that it's a kid show, but it's very grown up. Like it's like old film noirs and stuff. It's great.
Wow.
But then they started coming out with more kid friendly, like Batman Beyond and all that.
Teen Titans and stuff like that.
Teen Titans, which I've heard, I think Teen Titans came out when I was too old, but I've heard that I should go back and watch it, that it's a lot of fun, that it's really good. Okay. So when you were younger, do you remember the first piece or an artist that made it kind of click in your head? Something you saw?
I'm sure there was an artist before the artist I'm going to tell you
Okay.
that kind of sparked creativity for me. But I do, you know, my family wasn't big on watching TV.
Hmm.
So a lot of my time I would either be playing with action figures, um, like looking at, you know, images and comic books or photo artists. My dad had a huge book collection.
Okay.
So he knew that I liked looking at like art and books. So there
Right.
was this one artist called Boris Vallejo.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He's a really dope like painter of like the mythological, like
Yeah.
mythology and like creatures and like different beings, like of like a spin-off
Yeah.
reality, like in like a prehistoric realm. But yeah, it was so cool because like the way he would paint like the muscles of men and women,
Hmm.
um, and like the way that they would be standing strong and how he invoked different emotions and their facial features and stuff like that. So it was like really inspiring to see that and like see how realistic painting could be.
Yeah.
And so he was one of my favorite artists for a long time. And at the time, I love like dragons were my favorite thing. And I still really like dragons, but I really love like the different types of dragons. There were like fire, ice, earth.
Hmm.
Others can be like long or like staunch and strong. And, like it was just really cool for me. So I was
Yeah.
like, I love how he like painted his creatures and all that stuff. So Boris Valet was the guy who really did it for me at an early age.
I kind of now you're an artist. I kind of want you to bring back the 70s painting on the side of the van look.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
you remember that's Boris.
yeah,
That's a lot of in that
that's
Boris
the
Vallejo
style.
kind of style.
Yeah,
Yeah. That needs to make a comeback. That'll be for 2022.
yeah.
The
I've
van.
gotten some requests too.
Oh, really?
So
That's awesome.
to do like van, not like his style, but just to do
Yeah.
like van art and
And
stuff like that. But I never really followed through on any of
oh
them.
man. And if I can give you homework, so I'm really big into comics too, and they brought back Hercules in like the early 2000s, and there's this artist named Cary Nord, Carynord, that he did a looser version of Vallejo, and it's this painting style. The style he has is fantastic, and they made it more like the original books, where it was more like grown up and he's a badass. Like he's a badass. Like you need to treat him with respect. And it's a very good series. But Cary Nord's art was just perfect. It was perfect for that.
Wow.
And it came out like early 2000s, I think.
I have to check him out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I may have word, but I can't put a finger on it right now.
Yeah, and I think of when it comes to comics, I've introduced a lot of people in the last couple of years to Alex Ross. There's a lot of people who don't get into comics who don't know Alex Ross. I was like, just Google the name and look at the images because it is ridiculous what he does. Like it's super crazy. The detail is nuts.
Oh, insane! Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely familiar with that artist as well.
So you're in high school. Did your parents kind of like help kind of be like, no, get into the art? Like you said, your dad with the books, were they very encouraging for you to embrace art?
Yeah. There was like, they saw that I love to draw and stuff like that, entered me into an artist competition. When I was younger, I think I was maybe in like the 4th or 5th grade. And there was like an art competition for like students to draw like kind of like their spin on like history, like draw something about history. And I think everyone, it was like a pencil, like a sketching competition. I think there might have been some painters, but it was out of like 1,200 kids and from different school districts and stuff like that. So I wish I still had a picture of the drawing, but this was like back before people carried cell phones.
Yeah.
And I made it. I think I was like 6 or 7. No, like more like 7 or 8. I was like 7 or 8. And so I drew this painting I drew this drawing and it had like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and kind of like all the like, the greats, like people history, African American history.
Mm-hmm.
And because I wanted to kind of like show that, because I was really big. My parents were really big on like teaching me about, you know, African American history, my heritage and culture.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I just wanted to draw people from that, you know, era of history, Black people. So it was like Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and it was just like, and I think I tied it together with like, it was so long ago, but I think I tied it together with like different like inventions, like in the drawing too. So it's like kind of like a collage of like, you know, creators and their inventions, and, you know, political rights leaders, civil rights leaders who did things and what they would say and things like that. So I submitted that, like not knowing what would happen, and I won first place out of 1,200 kids.
That's amazing.
I was like, it was like a huge accomplishment for me, and I got like an award and did a speech in front of like this room, which I was like a little bit of a shy kid, so it was like I really mustered up the courage to talk in front of a room full of adults and other people. So that was that was cool.
Okay,
and
so
that was that really like sparked my mind that I really like art. Like this is like, it really encouraged me to continue to keep on going.
So does your mom still have that award hanging up on the fridge at home?
She moved so many times. It's not on the fridge, but you might have it in her binder somewhere.
She's got a keepsake book. Yeah.
Yeah, she has plenty of keepsake books and, you know, photo albums and things like that.
You can kind of see, like, where is it? That right there is all photos from me playing sports and elementary school and all that shit. And my parents finally gave it to me, and they were like, "This is yours. These are photos of you. You can have this." It's like, y'all don't want that. What the hell, man? That's like,
yeah,
I'm your baby. Come on, man.
Yeah, you keep them.
Yeah. Dad
sure,
was like, no, I need more room for my Jack Daniels bottle collection. Here, take this. Take this. Thanks, Dad.
Need to get more storage on their computer.
Yeah. So when so that was then like high school. Did you really immerse yourself in like the art? Did you have art classes in high school that really kind of helped nurture?
Yeah, and then it continued from there. Like, you know, I always excelled in art class. Always, you know, did really well with any assignment that I was given. One time, I even, you know, was supposed to help. You know, the art class job was to help design the set for a play.
That's awesome.
And everybody at this time I went to like Beechwood Elementary, so it was like a smaller school, like a smaller class. I think it was like 120 or 30 kids in each class, and each graduating class. But at the time, you know, every art student was supposed to help and, you know, pitch in. Yeah. So, but it turned out like every time I do class, they gave me like so much work to do because they knew that I loved to do it, and I really just like just dove into it, and I was moving and painting all the different set design pieces and things like that, to the point where they gave me like a special award for just like academic achievement award, but it was for art class, and I was like so happy about that. I was like, I didn't expect. I just wanted to like help and just paint things, and it was like my favorite class besides like science and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was just like very kind of like reassuring for me that I can do this and continue on.
Well, it was kind of weird. Like my high school art teacher had taught at the university here, University of Tennessee, and she came to Fulton and taught, and she was kind of like, I don't want to say doting on me, but she's like, you're not the best artist, but you try hard. So I'm going to let you just keep coming and to my class and everything. And then our head football coach found out that I was really into art, and he was like, oh, you're into art? Cool. You can leave class now. I was either in geography or history. I do not know which one. Because we did that, we checked in the class and then went to the weight room to work out and clean up the weight room, me and this guy, Jeff. And then before the football season, we would have to paint the advertisement signs that went around the fence around the field. He was like, oh yeah, you're into art. Go do this. It's like, damn it.
Yeah.
I want to learn about geography. That's why I don't know where anything is, because it's either
Yeah.
geography or history. It's like, I don't know when the War of 1812 was, because I was lifting weights and painting on metal signs. Is what I was doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did that. Did you, after high school, did you like, okay, I want to get into art full time, or were there other things that were, was there something
So
else? You said
I kind of
science.
dark path after high school. I wouldn't say really like I've always kept attitude and try to find the beauty in life and fun. And I think I hit like a depression phase where, you know, I never was born with a silver spoon. So
Right.
I really was like, my family was going through things, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was going through things with that, and I just really turned to like partying a lot with friends and drinking and smoking weed all the time and going to music festivals, and it was
So
a lot of good memories.
I was going to say, I think yours was better, because
Yeah.
we grew up super poor, and my dad was a truck driver. My mom worked for the phone company, and we were always super poor. And
Mm-hmm.
so after high school, I started boxing and started beating people up. So I think you
Oh, yes.
win. You did
Oh, okay.
the more mindful and hopeful
Well,
thing. Me, I'm just like,
like numbing things.
yeah,
Yeah.
punch, just punch.
Yeah. Fighting. I think every guy has not every guy, but like most guys have a phase where they turn to like hanging out with the wrong crowd.
Oh yeah.
And going to parties and like just like listening to the type of music that kind of kind of gets you pumped up and ready to just do something that you shouldn't be doing.
Yep.
And like I do remember at parties and stuff, and one of my friends get into a fight, and then it just turns out into a whole like brawl. And so those are the part of my years that I'm like, it's not really who I am and what I want to be. I don't want to be like
Right.
drinking all the time and fighting and sleeping with girls. And I mean, obviously that's every guy still wants to do that, but like I want to do it in a more like
positive way. Yeah.
positive way where it's
But
like I'm building something. Yeah.
But it's almost one of those things to where I always look back and say, but that's good that I went through that to know that I didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
If that makes sense. You go through the bad to get to the good.
Yeah. And the straw that broke the camel's back for me was, I was, when you're young, you're in all these stupid relationships and got all these friends, and a lot of them are going to be with you forever and things like that. They're like friends in the moment, and because you have so many, it's only maybe a handful of people who really care about you and want to see you succeed, like that. But the thing that broke the camel's back for me was like I was at a party, and I was with a bunch of friends, and then I had a friend tell me, "Oh, he's about to go meet up with another guy," and this guy, I had history with, where I was like, I didn't like him at all. Me and my girlfriend at the time, we were on kind of a break at the time, but he was like coming around her and like trying to come on to her, and I told him to stay away. He was also trying to he was like a heroin dealer, and this was at a time where like heroin was really bad, and it was like really taking over neighborhoods and things like that. And he was like doing it, and his girl like OD'd, and then they broke up, and he started like bringing it around my friend, not my whole friend group, but some of my friends, and they were starting stuff like that. And I just really didn't like him, because like no matter how low I've got like with drinking and smoking and trying drugs, heroin was one of those that like I would never near, or I don't want any of my friends getting near. So I found out that one of my friends was going to go meet up with him, potentially to probably buy heroin. And I was like, oh yeah. Like I played off like, oh cool. Let me come with you or whatever. Like I want to like, see what he got, see what he has and things like that. And so we hopped in a car. I was driving at the time. I was like 16 So I was driving at the time, and everyone, like me and two other buddies, hopped into my car. We went over to his place, and he didn't know I was coming. So I get there, and I confront him about, talking to my girl, like robbing my friend, trying to sell heroin. He's just trying to deny everything and lie about everything. And so that made me even more mad that he was lying and denying. And so, I got in his face, he pushed me, and then it turns into this, fight.
Oh, yeah.
And I ended up like whooping his ass, beating him up pretty bad. So I left the scene, and not knowing that, like, called the cops.
Yeah.
So cops, and because I left the scene, it turns into this whole thing where like there's a paper like the next day of like a fight and a guy being attacked, and I was like in that, and so I lawyered up right away, and then it turned into this whole thing where like I had to spend a lot, like $4,000 for a local lawyer, and luckily at the time I was able to muster up that money, and so I did that. And this guy was such a lowlife that he continued on with the pressing charges thing, or continue on with the case, but he already was like, because of the heroin and other pending like theft charges and stuff, I was able to get out of it because after a year of stress and depression and things like that, from like, the lifestyle I was living, I wasn't the person who I was. And like, after a year of that, the case got finally thrown out because he stopped showing up to his court dates.
Oh.
So they just threw the whole thing out. And I ended up with nothing, like no charges on my record. But it was a huge wake up call because, I was out of $4,000.
Yeah.
I had to spend a year of like, and at the time I didn't have a car either, because I remember like I had car trouble, and then eventually I didn't have a car. So I get a ride with my lawyer to the, go down there because I wanted to be on time and be there and be present, kind of defend myself. And so, I just got really, really lucky that, I didn't beat up somebody who had a clean record and who showed up to court. And so it just showed me that like fighting is not something that I want to do. I never got into a fight ever since. Like, I think that I was like 16 or 17 at the time. I think it was 17. Yeah.
Wow.
I said 16, but I was definitely like 17 or 18. But so after that, I never got into a fight again. I'm 29 now, about to be 30. And I just like turned my life around, started to, I joined the art coalition in Cleveland. A couple years later, after some time of just like, doing my own thing and, doing like an art show here or there and working on my personal work.
What is the art coalition?
It's called Lab Cabin Cleveland.
Okay.
It was a group of guys. We had a studio not too far from where I live now.
Okay.
It was that Lake Effect Studio, which was like, a warehouse where they had like a venue and different studio spaces for different reasons. There was like painters, woodworkers, welders,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Jewelry makers. So it was like one of those buildings where like you rent out a space and you do your thing. And so I had a friend who referred me because I was like looking for like a studio space or a place just to create. And he referred me to this group called Lab Cabin Cleveland, which was like, I think it was from the name derived from like a Far Side song.
Far Side album. Yeah. Lab Cabin, California.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big fan.
Lab Cabin, yeah.
That's why I giggled when you said that. I was like, oh, Lab Cabin, California. I recognize that.
Yeah. So it was really dope. So that kind of gives you a taste of what the vibe was. It was like, we were very like eclectic. We listened to a lot of like underground music and hip hop and beats and just like liquid vibrations when we kind of got into our workspace.
Okay.
My buddy referred me to the group, and like right away, one of their guys had moved to Chicago, so they had a space open for someone to help out with the paying and
awesome.
Space and things like that. So after that, I met everyone, kind quickly started to like just mesh, and I started creating with them, and they pushed me. One of the guys was Chad. He was like one of the older guys involved.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, him and I really hit it off. We became friends like almost instantly. And then, you know, there was a couple other guys in there. Everyone was, you know, very, very, very creative. We all like push each other to make new art, to collab on pieces, just to hang out in a cool workspace. And I think that's what really helped me blossom into a better artist, because I had these
And
artists kind of found a community. Yeah.
And kind of in a weird way, a positive, keeping you accountable. Like, hey, you're here.
You're here. Like, let's work. Let's do something.
Let's work. Yeah.
And, pushed me to start trying new things. Like I did body painting while I was there on different, human canvases.
Yeah.
You know, I painted on wood. I played with epoxy. I painted, on different surfaces and structures.
Yeah.
Pushing myself to try new things and become like a more well-rounded artist. And I started doing art shows, and then that eventually led into muraling, which was like a huge thing for me, because I've always thought murals and street art was dope. And murals and whatever, just large scale works of art.
Is Cleveland like a good city and supportive of the public art?
It's kind of weird, because I feel like, I don't know if it's just because my perspective of Cleveland, but I feel like as soon as I started like getting into painting murals is when Cleveland started to embrace art more.
I thought you were going to go the other way. They were like, nope, cutting it down.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, it literally was like, I felt like Cleveland didn't really respect its artists the same way that it does now. Because there's a lot of art. There's a lot of like where artists can go, art events, art spaces. But as far as art being in the streets, like street art, and businesses embracing art, like for murals, like, and things like that, and art installations, I feel like Cleveland was missing a lot of that back in like, even as early as like 2014.
Yeah.
After 2014, things would slowly start to happen where more and more art was accepted in the streets, and a lot more murals, mural festivals started happening. People were embracing the art culture, where like art started to take a forefront, because Cleveland is mainly like kind of and has always been a sports city. Because we have the Cavaliers, the Indians, which is now the Guardians, and the Browns. So everything was kind of revolved around that, which whether we made money, whether things happened, if we won, the championships, like it really fuels the city in sports. So.
Well, Knoxville, Tennessee is the home of University of Tennessee, and it's like the second or third biggest stadium in the country with like 104,000 people. So it's weird here. When I was growing up, this was a college town that some people stayed behind, but sometime in like 2010 or so, it flipped to where people don't think of UT first when they think of Knoxville, which kind of blows my mind, because that's how it was for the first 30 something years of my life. Like, this is a college town, but so many people stay and made it better. And the mural thing in the last 5 to 7 years, around the same time, then I guess the city started investing money, and a couple of nonprofits started investing money in public murals. And now it's just gone crazy to where it's almost like every week there was an art alley downtown that just naturally had street art. And then the city has embraced it and started paying, doing funding to get more art in that out. And it's become a thing. It's become an attraction, which is awesome. I love seeing that, because otherwise it'd just be a gray wall in a stinky alleyway. It's still a stinky alleyway. It still stinks to high heaven back there. It's behind a bunch of bars and restaurants. It's awful back there, but at least it's got pretty art. But that's good there. So in that realm, like you doing public art, mural based, so what made you switch from like drawing and stuff to the mural? Was it an opportunity to do a mural or public art, or what was it that
Switch from drawing to painting, or what'd you
yeah,
say?
switch from, like you said, you kind of hand sketch and everything, but what was the thing, what was the motivator that's like that you got into mural or public art?
I think for me, it was just like getting my art seen. And I feel like one of the better
Okay.
ways of getting it seen and creating like, my own presence in the art community was a great dual sort of
Okay.
and community based artwork.
Okay. I in that realm, how do you feel about Banksy? That's always a go-to when it comes to art for me. It's so
Yeah,
weird.
he's a really dope artist. I mean, he lives in his own kind of category of art, and there's been a lot of imitators after him.
Right.
But he kind of makes art that is meant to kind of make you uncomfortable, make you
Right.
think, make you feel inspired. He makes art that's like more about revolves around politics and social justice and conditions of whatever
Mhm.
city time or whatever country he's in at the time. And he likes to do things that you could throw up real fast. Like he does stencil work,
Right.
so it's not so much about the details; it's about the message. So I
Right.
definitely think, his style is it's in a category of its own. It's really dope.
I feel like he is almost like Warhol was in the 60s, to where
Mm-hmm.
he's a very polarizing figure. Like some
Mm-hmm.
people in art think it's legitimate and amazing, and some people are like, oh, this is awful. This devalues art and all this. And I'm always
Yeah.
curious to hear from artists, like, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it values art at all. But I definitely think that, it's not, it shows the importance of like having just like like some kind of meaning in
Mhm.
art,
Mhm.
because like it's not hard work to make a stencil at home and then go spray it in
Yeah.
on a wall, and then it makes it kind of easier for people like to imitate it and things like that. But I definitely think that it just he's really clever at
Yeah.
when, where, and how he installs his work, and it always leaves an impact, and it can brighten up someone's day. It can make someone think. It can change someone's mind
Yeah.
about things. So it's really powerful work for sure.
It's also fun. Like I was in San Francisco and spotted one because it was on, just a building. And I
Mhm.
was just walking. I was like, holy shit, that's a Banksy. Like it made me stop and think about it for a second. It was pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you set goals or have a checklist? Like, do you know what you would like to do in like the next 2, 5, 10 years, or just keep creating art?
Yeah, my thing is just to keep creating art. I definitely want to make it. I need to. What I really need to work on is branding myself better. I think I'm so busy making art and trying to push it to the next level that I don't take a step back and work on the business side of it as much as
Right.
I could. And like really, getting better at making prints and just making
Yeah.
consistent money off of work I have already created.
That's so I by trade do design, illustration, social media, digital marketing, website design, photography. I joke that if it's creative or digital, I do it, or I'll babysit your kids if it gets me money. So
Yeah.
this is a constant, especially during the pandemic, a constant struggle of like, I worked in the corporate world enough to say I need an ongoing revenue stream. That's an MBA, Masters of Business term that I learned. I was like, that needs to be a thing. Like, and it's always a struggle for artists trying to get like, because all you want to do is create. It's like, I just want to create.
I don't want to do that part of it where I'm like talking about myself and just like keep promoting like art that I've already made. It can be tiresome. It's like a job in itself.
Right.
If you really want to like stay on top of it and make money and just really be in the forefront with your work. Let me add the plug in.
Okay.
I want this thing to die on you.
There's a friend of mine that he came from marketing, and he and I meet up like once every 6 months and have air quotes marketing meetings. We sit there and bullshit for like 6 hours. But he have you ever heard of Pachakacha? Y'all looked into there in Cleveland. I'm sure there is one, but it's a thing that was started in Japan, and it's 20 slides, 20 seconds a slide, and you can talk about whatever. And a lot of people talk about art, they talk about history, they talk about whatever. And I am trying to push him into doing, because he and I constantly talking about that we are the anti-rise and grind people. You know, the people that take the photos of their clock, the watch at 4:30 a.m. It's like, we're not that guy. We're not that guy. Yeah. Like, it's not rise and grind. It's you. Sometimes you got to hustle. Like, it's not about rising and grinding. It's about hustling and working your butt off. But it's also about enjoying your life. Like, you shouldn't be stuck to the rise and grind. That's so I'm trying to get him to write a Pachakacha that is the anti-rise and grind speech of just like, stop taking photos of your damn watch at 4:30 in the morning. Is there anything you would like to see more in art, in like others, or even in yourself? Is there's something there that you're like, I'd like to tap into that, or I'd like to see, like, do you ever go back and talk to kids at high schools or anything up there to encourage them?
Yeah, I work with, I have had the opportunity of working with, you know, different schools and universities and high school kids and things like that. And I do talk to them about, you know, how to be an effective, you know, freelance artist.
Yeah.
Basically an entrepreneur, and how the things you need to know, and the basics of, you know, art building, which is like composition, blocking in, color selection, color theory, just different things like that. And also one of the more important things is supplies, tools, having a plan of how you approach things, and really just like finding your voice, your style, and then just growing off that, stemming from that.
It's kind of wild because the high school I went to was very rough. Like, I saw a gun on a guy I grew up with, Chucky, was sitting there. We're sitting there in science class, and a guy in front of him turned around, and it turned out Chucky was selling drugs for that guy. And the guy pulled a gun and was like, I need my money. Wow. And I'm just sitting there like, what are we doing? Chucky, what are you doing? Like, freaking out. So Fulton, my high school, was very rough. And
in Tennessee?
In Knoxville. Like, and I still go up there and talk to those kids. And Fulton was, when I went there, was 2/3 black. And so and I grew up on the black side, so I'm used to being the only white guy. And that apparently that's a drinking game on this show, because I know what I look like. Yeah. I'm a big goofy white dude. And anytime I go up there and talk to those kids, I was like, I know what I look like, but I came from here, and y'all can make it out of here. You just got to work. Like, you got to, exactly what you know, have a plan. I talk about sketching. I was like,
believing yourself.
Yeah. I was like, if you don't want to feel frustrated, a lot of times that helps. Just thumbnail ideas before you actually put paint to canvas. It's like, think about what you're doing so you don't get halfway through a painting and get frustrated and give up on it. Like, but it is funny going up there. It's like, I know what I look like, but I'm from here. I can still whoop all of y'all. Well, maybe not you, the football player in the back. I'm 6'7", 285. There was a kid there that had to be 6'10", 6'11", probably 400 pounds. I was like, not you. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. You can play video game. I don't care. It's like, I'm not messing with you. You're also young. You can kick my, no. You're good. You're good, man. But yeah, I love going up there and talking to those kids and just being like, there is a living in art. You can do it, man. If I can make it out of here, my graduating class had 103 to 108 kids. And we figured out at our 20-year reunion that 3/4 are dead, in prison, or have done jail time. Like, it was a brutal school. Yeah, but we made it out.
There's a cycle. Like, a lot of people, you know, they are raised a certain way, and they're not given kind of like the mental advantage as some kids have that, like they know that they have the ability to do things. They know that they have the ability to believe in themselves. They don't have to go take care of their grandma or their aunt or be being put in an adult situation as a child can really stifle your brain development, your growth, a lot of things. So I think there's cycles and people who are victims to their circumstances where like it makes it a lot harder to get out. You really have to like either get lucky or just ignore your surroundings. It's just stay tunnel visioned on your future.
And I will say, but if and when you do make it out of there, you are, I don't want to say a lot better than a lot of your competition. Like the University of Tennessee, I went to their graphic design. I did the portfolio review. And there was one kid there that she had all of her shit together. And then I noticed Fulton High School was in one of those. I was like, that's why all of this is done. Because you got to work your butt off to get here. Whereas this other kid was like taping or stapling letters to telephone poles. And I was like, what do you be an artist, kid. Don't be a graphic designer. Be an artist. That's fine.
Yeah.
You're doing good in that. But what the hell are you doing? Whereas the young woman, I was just like, you're doing great. Keep on doing, like, I was just like, keep doing what you're doing, man. Like, you're killing it. Like, keep working hard. Because she knows she's got to work harder than everybody else. And it's awesome. Like, I love seeing the kids that make it out of there. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
So we'll end on, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, it's very inspirational when someone comes from a really horrible place and they, show that like you can still make it and do well.
And it was funny. Like I said, Dad was a truck driver. Mom worked for the phone company, and both of them were like, "You want to do what for a living?" I was like, "I'm going to draw pictures." And they're like, "Can you get into printing or something that you can make money?"
Factory work.
And it finally hit a point, like with my dad. Like, of course, it's dads being dads. Never says, "I'm proud of you." It's always telling 18 other people that, "Oh, did you see what he did? He did it. It is pretty good." I was like, other people tell me that. I'm like, well, I didn't hear. What the hell, Dad? You didn't tell me, man. Come on. Like, telling everybody else. Here's what we'll go out on. Is there anybody, or do you have a list of people you'd like to work with? Like in a dream world, like here's the people I'd love, or businesses or anything I'd like to work with. You'd like to work with.
Like, so as far as like working with other artists, the more involved I get with the art world, I'm starting to realize that like you can really achieve those things. And like I just met a couple of my favorite artists ever a week ago or a couple of weeks ago, probably like 2 weeks ago or so. And it was like it really opened my eyes to like I'm not that far away from like networking with other artists, because it's not like the actor world where like there's a lot of degrees of separation between you and like Will Smith or somebody. Like which even that can still, like, if you work your way into certain circles, you can still get there fairly quickly. But in the art, like in the painter mural world, like, if you're consistent, you put in a lot of work, like you'll probably end up meeting one of your artistic idols that are still alive. And if you just put yourself into that circle and start going to these events and things like that, you can bump shoulders with different, investors and business owners and things like that. So I just really, it's just about staying consistent, putting in hard work, believing in yourself, and keep pushing yourself to be better. And you can definitely achieve those things. That's what I'm starting to learn. As far as working with like big corporations, I would love to work with like Nike or Adidas, something like someone like that, like do some work for them, for their company. I love both of those companies. Or just like some environmental group.
Okay.
Cool. Like some huge environmental group would be dope to work with as well.
Your goal is a lot higher. Mine is Oreo and Waffle House.
Oreo, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Oreo. Cool.
Yeah.
Waffle House, I don't know too much.
I saw Hannah sent me a little meme that said Waffle House. Oh, I said it the wrong way. Ooh, I'm gonna have to cut that out. I can't make them angry. It said Waffle House application process, and it showed like a manager sitting in front of a potential employee. He's like, "Can you fight?" He's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds about right for Waffle House." I love it. But I don't know. And before we go, I will say I scrolled through your Instagram, noticed you've been to my neck of the woods. You've been down here in East Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
And when you said the environmental thing, that made me think of that. Like there's so many things down here too, like mountain biking. Like there's people here that are working tirelessly to build more parks and more opportunities for people. And I love seeing that.
Yeah.
Like it's
I'm here for it.
that you're in for that. That's awesome. But
I love nature. I love working with, organizations that want to, beautify a community or,
yeah,
improve the atmosphere for youth and maybe inspire them to do something great.
yeah.
So if I can ever get involved with something like that, I'm always down for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on.
Thank you. And you guys can find me on Instagram. My name's StarBeing, StarBeing. And my real name, government name, is Isiah Williams.
My government name.
Government.
I'm going to make up a fake government name for me. I was like, well, the name I go by is Jody, but
Yeah.
I'll have to think of some other name. I was about to say
Right, everyone
Ralph.
calls me today.
I was about to say Ralph. I was like, no, that's awful. That's terrible. Made up name. But thank you for being on.
Thank you.